fancy intro music. Yeah! Woohoo!
Hey Star Trek Fleet Command fans, welcome back to the channel where today I want to talk about how we grade arcs. And it's something that myself and Ultimate DJ and even you have done for quite some time. It's not new to try to say, hey, this is what they did good, this is what they did bad. But one thing that I have agreed upon for a long time with a lot of people that we have this conversation with is there's not a lot of consistency in how we're grading in terms of like, I grade things one way, you grade things one way, and how do we find that balance that's good for everybody? Because if we come together as a community, and we have like a set standard, it's easier to pass along that feedback instead of just being like, well, Rev liked it and so hated it. So let's take the individual out of it. Let's talk about grading arcs throughout the remainder of the year on a set standard that we all use. Now, for those who are about to say, well, Rev, you can't tell us what to do. You're not my real dad. Your mother would disagree, but I do want to show you a grading rubric put together by myself and ArchDuke. Now, some of you might not know, and this is somebody who has the same passion I do in terms of they want to find consistency in the game and they want to provide consistent feedback. And they came to me with the rubric that they had designed, and through some tweaking, my takes, their takes, and some balancing, came with this one here. So I'm giving them lots of credit. I put forth and added some things that they didn't have and took some things away, but overall think there's going to be a balance. I will provide this in my Discord. I'll also have it in my Google Drive for everybody to download and use so that you get the basic idea of how it works. But because I don't want you to sit here and read through this whole thing, what I'm gonna do is show you with pretty graphics. Yay, pretty graphics are fun. Woohoo! We like pretty graphics. So the idea is the grading system is going to work on just like you would in school, a percentage system. So you get X amount of points, divide it by the total number, and then that gives you the percentage of how well you did. So here in our little grade, we'll have A, B, C, D, and F, just like school, everybody. Well, if you're an American, I don't think y'all really do A, B, C, D, F everywhere, but 4 points, 2 officers are must-haves. An example of a must-have month would be Strange New Worlds, like when Pike came out and Spock came out. Those were must-haves. Like you want those, you need those. They're going to be, very integral to your gameplay long term. When Cisco and Miles came out, same thing. Those would be A officers. Now, one thing that we have placed into this rubric is to allow for a bonus point system for when things are exceptionally good, but I'll talk about that after we go through the 5 categories, with officers being number 1. Then the B would be, well, one officer is a must-have and the others are good. C would be that there are no must-haves, but they would be some would be nices, med value, and then no value at all. Now, real quick, and we do cover this in the rubric, that this is with the understanding that you source 1 officer for free every month, a rare typically. So you can source more and you could talk about that being better than normal, but the idea here is taking into account the consistency for 2 years to essentially get 1 rare officer free to play sourced, and that's the meta. Whereas the epics are generally going to be leaderboards or paid for until you get long-term sourcing. But we'll talk about the bonus point system in a bit. Let's move on to the next one we got officers and then ships. Now, this one will not be available every single month, obviously, because we don't always have a ship. In the instances where there are no ships, we'll just simply ignore this and we won't add it to the grade. We'll do some little math later so you can kind of get where we're coming from. But if there is a ship, an A grade is it must have, or it is a must-have in its priority and upgrades, as in everything it does is good. It has good sourcing immediately out of the gate. It also is useful for more than just being a niche ship. I'll give examples of this when we get to the bottom. Must-have, but still a nice ship would be B, or still a niche ship. C would be built only for niche use. D is built only when there's nothing else to build or work on. And F would be no value, or you're literally wasting your time and resources. So examples of these ships would be A for me, an A or even an A plus ship. So a ship that actually earns a bonus point would be the Vidar. It is not only great at what it's designed to do, which is hunt Borg probes, it's great for regular play, PvP, PvE grinding. It's good for armadas. It was the ship that came out good for everything, has great sourcing. It's an A plus type of example. A B example would be the Defiant. It is still a niche ship, but you can use it in other things. And that's kind of how I ended up grading it when we did my video. And I know there were some disagreements there, and I'm welcoming those disagreements. Let me know when you disagree with certain things. I actually really like it. It helps me perfect what I do, in my opinion, and the feedback that I give the dev team. So A C example, built only for niche use. This would actually be the Discovery for me. Even though Discovery's good, it's still literally only the USS Uber. That's all it is. That doesn't make it bad. It just makes it extremely niche. That's all you use it for. That's it. The Fisha, same thing, same category. Now D, built only when there's nothing else to really work on. I mean, it's just, if you've got nothing available, but you need to work on a specialty ship or any ship, that would kind of go right there. Now, the only time I can really point something to that, I'm going to give it to the sarcophagus because it technically has a usage. Some people like it. I personally do not like the sarcophagus. I think it's a waste of resources, but it does work. The cloak has made it a little more viable. And now that you can put the strike team battleship crew on it, it's even more viable in territory defense. That would be a D, but you really only want to go for it if you got nothing else to work on. F, the best example of an F that I can provide as a ship are the hijack ships. They serve no purpose in the game. You can't scrap them. They're not part of your economy. They cost more to upgrade than a regular version, and they can't even cloak. Like, there's no reason to get them except they look pretty. So that's wasting people's time. Now, if you want to get them to collect them, get them to collect them. I'm not telling you not to collect them. I'm telling you that they have no value in themselves. Number 3, or the third category, is features. Now, this is going to be Ultimate DJ's favorite. F, complete flop. All players hated it. Assaults. Hence the picture of assaults over there. See it? Everybody hated that. It was trash. Nobody liked assaults. That's an F. 0 points. Heh. But A would be adds to the game in a very positive way. Like, overall, it was great. An example would be the Bajoran faction in Solar Armadas. I'd even argue, when we talk in a second about our bonus point system, that Bajoran is that good because it came out with stuff that was available for free-to-play and beneficial for free-to-play and spenders immediately. It came out with sourcing for its mechanic. The Solar Armadas, that's really good sourcing immediately. You're talking about getting 1 Armada a day, that's 365 uncommons a year, and getting about a third of that in rares a year for free, just going through your grind. Now, we can argue that sometimes features can be bad because they add more grind to the game, but in just general, are they good? How do they affect the players? That's how we're going to be grading features. 3 would be good for the game, minor issues here and there. A minor, might be something like the treasury. We've had issues with the treasury, and the treasury is paywalled except for getting a free-to-play treasury 2 to 3 times a year. So that could be a B. It's not the most amazing thing, but it is good. C would be could have been better, but isn't bad. I think a could be better, but isn't bad example. I think that when it comes to features, there's not a lot of C's and D's. It's kind of either A, B, or F. But negatively impacted the game as in resetting a meta. Probably the incursions building when it first came out. It's just power creep. You can't really source it right now. You can't source it at all right now in terms of building it. And then when it comes to upgrading it, very, very sparse. So it's really kind of locked behind the people who just go and buy the keys. So let's say that's an example of a D. Moving on to section 4. This is grading the Arc calendar and the event store. So an A grade would be like December, where it's the greatest event store month we've ever paid out. But also I grade it by having plenty of events. Most players tend to want more events to give them options of what to complete in, especially if those payouts are good and participation is available to everybody. So when you don't have high participation, I consider that a failing point. So B, strong payouts, maybe not amazing, not all events available to all. There are some times where a month will come out where there are really some events that are just kind of designed for 35 plus, and there's nothing really there for lower levels. So that's a fail. Letter C would be getting a C grade light calendar. Not many events like we've had before where like a Tuesday, there's nothing to do. Reasonable participation, but it's not very exciting. D would be paywalled events and low participation. A good example of paywalled events is when the rare ticket system was here in the game. Many of you may not remember that, as that is going back a little ways, but we had a rare ticket system which was just completely paid. It was a paywall system. It was terrible. And then F would be little to no events, sparse participation. That would just be basically a dead calendar, just a complete boring month, nothing to do, nothing new, nothing exciting. And that would be your events. And then the final one is grading communication and miscellaneous things that happen throughout the month. This is basically grading Scopely and how they interact with us as players. So A would be having great in-game news. It's constant, it's updated, it's happening all the time. They're very active in social media, few to no bugs on launch. So Little things pop up throughout the month, but we want to make sure that we really highlight if they're going to be successful this month and how we grade them. They can't have a lot of problems with the actual launch of various things. So if they want an A, it's not about getting a compensation chest. You can have the best compensation chest in the world. If you had game-breaking problems, you're not getting an A grade. B, though, is solid communication and valuable comps on mistakes. So for example, November, the treasury problem was horrible for some players. It literally could become a health hazard because of for some, it was a rapid flash, which, obviously for those who suffer from epilepsy could be a problem. That compensation chest was extremely generous, making up for the extreme problem that existed. So you can argue that the great communication we had that month, combined with that compensation, made that month a B grade. For communication, even though that problem was extreme. C would be very little communication, which we've had sometimes, combined with serious issues and launch bugs. D would be launch day fails and then nobody's talking. Like launch day is just littered with problems. And then an F, which thankfully doesn't happen too often, but game's unplayable. We'll go full pitchforks. It has happened before where the game just simply isn't even working. You can't turn it on. We've crashed. Horrible things are happening. Cities are burning. Children are crying. Mothers are lost. It's a thing. So that's the overall grading. Real quick, I did want to mention the bonus idea system. Bonus comes in when you have something that's just significantly great. For example, look at officers. If you have a free-to-play path of sourcing available for multiple officers immediately. An example of that would have been the Mantis sourcing or the Cerritos sourcing for officers. Having that come in with the game is a huge bonus. You can argue adding in a bonus point. So instead of 4, it would get 5. Same thing that you can do with a ship. If it comes out like the Vidar and it's got sourcing, first month of the game, it's got sourcing and it's good for everything. And you can use it in armadas, PvP, and it's niche, then it can get a 5 out of 4. But these are rare. And I honestly don't think that there's been a 5 ship that's come out probably since 2021, but worry about that later. Features, you can do a +1 just like I talked about with something like the Bajoran faction, but again, super rare. It's really rare to have that happen. Then you get into miscellaneous and event stores. Again, the only thing that can really do an event store would be something, or the only thing that can make an event calendar a +1 is like December, when the event store was literally the most effective and biggest payouts ever. Free to play were all over 600,000. Spenders were well over 1 million. Easily the best payouts and best value that the game has ever seen. You can see why there's a +1 there. And then you get to this final category with communication. I'll be honest, I can't think of how it could get a +1. And I'm not trying to be like Rev Butthole there. I just, honest to God, can't think of how they could ever earn a +1 grade. When it happens, I will tell you, but I cannot sit here and think, how could it go literally that well that they got an A+? I really don't know. Is it possible? Yes. And Scopely, please, I'm challenging you. Prove Rev wrong. I'm big face right here. Prove me wrong. Do it. Have an A+ month. Show me how it can be done. I'm here for it. But until that happens, I'm going to say, don't even worry about it. Now, why did I include all this in the rubric? Well, let's talk about a basic grade. Let's use December as an example. Officers. Well, there were 2 officers that were must-haves. Odo is a great have for you. Bashir's a must-have. And Jadzia Dax, long-term, really good to have. So, well, there's 4 points. And didn't have great sourcing coming out immediately. We don't know what long-term sourcing is, so no +1. So that's 4 out of 4 so far. Ships, there was no ship, so we skipped that. Still 4 out of 4. Features, terrible. That's a 0. That was an F. So now we're 4 out of 8. But let's go to the event calendar. That was amazing. Arguably the best we've ever had. So now you've got 4 out of 8. Now we're going to add 5 points to that, because it really was that big of a deal. So now we're 9 out of 12. 9 out of 12. And then we get to the communication and you give them maybe a B. 9 out of 12 now becomes what? 12 out of 15. And then you can do the quick math on there. The grade is pretty fair-ish. I think you can argue either way that maybe we need to go a little bit, supposed to be out of 16, right? Yeah, out of 16. So I skipped a category, just fast scrolling. But yes, wait, let's do 3, 5, that'd be 8. Feature, that was a bomb, no ship. So yeah, it is 4. So that'd be 16 max total points. And we do 4, then we would do, gosh, that was so bad. Then 9, and then we would do 12. So 12 divided by 16, that's 75. That's a C grade. That's kind of where I was at in my grading. 75 would be a C grade. So Again, this is all just based to try to help you guys out and gals out when it comes to getting a consensus on grading and making it fair. This is the standard, and let me know if you want to use it and if you agree with it. Let me know if you think it's trash and you're not going to use it. But this is what I'm going to use throughout the year. This is what ArchDuke is going to use throughout the year, and we're going to talk to the other content creators and let me know what you think. And I think this will make feedback better for all of us because we're going to be on one consistent playing field. Live long and prosper. Stay safe for those Space Cowboys. Deuces, that's me. Catch you on the next one. Catch you on that Arc launch tomorrow where we can start taking grades down. Taking notes. Yeah. Is it going to be good? Is it going to, was there a hint in this video? Maybe.
An even better outro than the intro. For the Empire and glory to your house.